Hey nerds! Welcome to the React.js full course powered by React 19 and packed with real projects. You are watching episode 9. And in this episode, we are diving into a special hook called useRef. It's like a ninja that quietly does its job without causing re-renders. Here's what you will learn today. How to store data without re-rendering, how to access DOM elements directly, where and when to use useRef in real-world apps, and we'll build a practical mini project using useRef to see it in action. By the end, you will know exactly when to use useRef instead of useState or useEffect and why it matters. So let's jump in. Let's say you are building an app and you just want to count the clicks for analytics only. Okay, you don't need to show it on the UI. So here what I have done, here I have a state which is click count and its setter function set click count with default value of 0. And also I have a button with where I'm calling on each click, I'm calling this handle click function, which is responsible to increase the click count by 1. Okay, so here I have one console which is inside the handle click, which is just showing the count. And also after this handle click, I have one console which is just have the text of component re-render. Okay, so now let's go to localhost and check how it's working. So let me refresh it. So as you can see, it is showing first component re-rendered. Okay, now let me click the button first. Okay, so now I have clicked. So in this case, if you will notice, I'm increasing the count, okay, by using useState. But wait, look at the console here. It's always printing one number behind, right? Means I have clicked, so it should be 1. But instead, it is just showing 0. So let me click it again. Now it is showing 1, but now it should have that value of 2, right? So that's because useState update after the render, not immediately. Also, one more issue is here. Whenever I'm clicking this button, you can see it is logging component re-rendered. Means on every click, this component gets re-rendered. So these are the two issues. So to solve this, let's use a useRef hook. Okay, so let's discuss first what is useRef. UseRef is our inbuilt React hook, basically an inbuilt function which lets us store any value and do not cause the re-render. So useRef is like having a secret box inside your component. You can put anything in it, a number or DOM element, timer, and it will remember it forever, even when your component re-renders. But React will not re-render when it changes. So it doesn't get reset whenever our components get updated. So what is the syntax for it? So syntax is first you have to import useRef from React, as I have done here, as you can see. Okay. Now the syntax is you need to create a variable to store the ref. So suppose my ref, okay, and you have to use this useRef hook. So use ref, okay, and here you can pass the initial value. It can be number, integer, array, string, timer, anything. Okay, and so basically this useRef returns what it returns. It returns a object, means it returns in my ref. Okay, I'll have something like current value colon whatever my initial value will be. Okay, so it will return me something like this. So in current value key inside our ref object, I'll have my initial value or the whatever the value I have. Okay, now you can update these ref value by using my ref. It is object, right? And I have the key name current value. So my ref dot current value and equal to new value. Okay, so this is the syntax to create a ref. Now let's solve this issue, whatever we have faced with state. Let's solve it by using useRef. Okay, so that is the syntax. So let me just comment it out first. Okay, now let's create, instead of state, now let's use a ref here. So let's comment this out also, and here let's create a ref. How we can create a ref? Just a variable name of ref, Okay, so for now I'll keep as it is for click, so I'll name it click ref equal to use ref. Okay, and default value means initial value what we have given 0 here, so I'll also give 0 here. Okay, now I have this click ref. Now here on button click I'm calling handle click, right? So here instead of now setting a state value of set click count, I'll comment it out. Now I'll update this ref value. Okay, so how can I update it? As you can see, I already showed then my ref dot current. That is a syntax to update it, right? So here click ref dot current is equal to, how can I update? We have to plus 1 of the current value, right? So let's just do that again. Click ref dot current, whatever the current value of ref is, plus 1. So initially 0. Okay, on click of it will be 0 plus 1. So now my current value will be 1. Now click again. So current value is 1. So 1 plus 1, it will be 2. Okay, so now let's just save it and go to console here. Okay, refresh it. Okay, and now let's try to click. Okay, click count is not defined because here instead of that, let's click count dot ref. Let's do that. Okay, sorry, click count dot current value we have to render. Now let's refresh it again, and now let's click. So click. So you can see I have clicked one time and my value is now count 1. And also you can see after this it is not printing component re-render. Okay, so let's click it again. 2, 3, 4, 5. So our both issues have solved. First one was it was re-rendering the whole component, means this console log was printing every time I was clicking button earlier, right? And also earlier it was showing the previous value, not the current value, means on first click it was showing 0, then second click it was showing 1, means it was not showing the updated value, it was showing one value previous, right? But here with use ref I can see my current value whatever it is. Okay, so I clicked one time, so it is showing 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, right? And also it is not printing the component re-render console, means our component is not getting re-render even if we are changing the count value. So this is how it works for useref. Okay, so now let's discuss the difference between useState and useref. One or two we just saw, right? So what is the difference here? So first let's discuss about re-render. Okay, so re-render. Now what we have just learned, use effect, useref cause re-render, right? So yes, and useref does not causes re-render whenever we are changing its value, right? We just saw. Then the next difference is purpose. So use state is basically used to store UI data, means whatever the data you want to show in the UI, that is only needs to be stored in use state. And in useref, whatever the data you are not using to show in the UI, or also it is only used to backend computing, right? That only you can store on the useref. So you can use it for non UI data, right? Next difference is when to use. Okay, so for use state, when you need to display or track values on screen, obviously. Okay, so when you need to show the data in screen, and for useref, when you need to store something silently, so that your React doesn't know or doesn't causes re-render, like timers or maybe DOM nodes, okay, or some flags which doesn't needs to be shown in the UI, then those value you can use in and store it using useref. Okay, now value storage, next difference. So in use state we do have the direct value storage, right? Means in array syntax we have this value and its set value function, right? But here means directly we can access the value as in variable name. But in useref, how you can access it? It is stored in a object within the current property name, right? We have saw here like it is storing like current and whatever the value you have. So to access it, you have to write object name where you are storing the ref and the current value. So like suppose here what we have done, click ref dot current, right? So this is how you can store and get the access of the value. Okay. So uses example, let me give you some examples over here for use state. So suppose like input field value, right? You can store counters, you can store or whatever the visible things. Okay, visible things. And here in use ref, you can store like DOM elements, timers, previous values also you can store. That is very helpful. Okay, scroll position, that's you gonna use it a lot in your projects. So that is the important thing you need to always store in the use ref. Okay, so and about the React track changes. Okay, so for use state, yes, React does track the changes whatever you're making on the use state and it causes re-render, but in use ref it ignores. Okay, so these are the main differences for use state and use ref. So when to use each, let's discuss that. So showing number of like on screen, obviously whatever you want to show on the screen, use state instead. Okay, because we need a updated value on the UI. And if you want to let me just show it here. If you want to suppose need autofocus functionality, when component mount you want to focus some input field or something, right? Then in this case use this one, use ref instead of use state. Okay, so let me make it no. And if you want to track if a function ran before, okay, so track if function ran before ran, so use ref. And this is gonna help you a lot, because mostly what will happen whenever you will be calling any API within a use effect, it will get called twice or thrice because of your some state update maybe. So in that case, you don't want to call every API every time whenever your any of the state within component gets changed, right? So in that case, you have to always use track the ref using use ref, so that only once you have to call or the APIs. Okay, so in that way it is very important to use ref. Okay, now next is store from input value for submission. So that is also you can use by using use ref. And also if you need to change button label after a click, then you have to use, in that case you can use the use state. So these are some examples I have given you so that you can differentiate when to use state and when to use ref. Also, let me tell you some unknown tips and tricks which not every YouTube video you will see. Okay, so the first thing is ref dot current, means whatever the ref object you have, okay, and its current can store function also, values or class instance. Like it can store anything. You can also give a function here. Okay, you can assign it a function also here, and you can use this function anywhere by using ref dot current. So this current means ref basically reference can store anything whatever you want. Okay, now the second thing is you can use ref instead of use state to build super fast forms, right? If you want to make your form super fast, then you can use the use ref instead, because it avoids re-render on every key stroke. As simple as that. Third thing is it is best, means it is perfect for debouncing, throttling inside a hook. Okay, so debouncing as in you are typing something, right, and after a certain amount of time you want to execute some function, right? So in that case use ref is gonna help you. You cannot implement it by using use state. Now fourth thing is use ref is always helpful to store previous props or previous state. So whenever in your life in React, if you come across a situation where you need to keep the previous state or previous track of previous state or previous props, then in that case use ref is gonna help you definitely. So these are some unknown tips which I wanted to share with you. It's mini project time. So let's come here in our app component. Okay, so now what we want to build today. So we want to create a stopwatch application. Basically it will be a component where we'll be showing the timer basically time, which will increase in every 1 second when user will start the timer, right? So we'll have start timer button, stop timer button, and we want to reset the timer also. So we'll have one more button called reset. So we'll be showing the time, and it will have 3 buttons to start, stop, and reset. And here we'll be using our use ref. Okay. So now let me clear all these things which we have. Okay. So let me delete everything from here, and also let's clear the return, and let's only return div. Okay. So first, as I told, we'll be showing time, right? So to store that time, we definitely need a state. Why use state? Because time I need to show it in the UI. So that's why we have to use the state instead of ref, right? So let's create a state const as, let's name it time, and also its setter function set time, and let's give it value. By default it will have from time always start from 0 timer. Okay, now let's show it in the UI, this time value. So here I'll in h1 tag I'll show stop watch heading with whatever the time value it is. And also let me add one more style here so that everything can in center. Text align center. Okay, so now we are showing the time. Okay, now let's create 3 buttons whatever we have discussed. So first button will be start, to start the timer, and then we'll have, let's copy paste 3 times. Okay, so now we'll have, after start we'll have one button to stop definitely, and then one button to reset the timer. So now we have 3 buttons. Okay, so now let's create functionality to start the timer. So on click of this start button, I'll be calling a function to start the timer. So on click of this button, I'll be calling let start timer function. So let's create this start timer. We have not created it, right? So here const start timer. Okay, so in this function what we'll do, we'll just increase the time value in every 1 second. Okay, and how we'll be doing that? Using the set interval definitely, and that interval be running in every 1 second, right? And we have to store that interval somewhere so that we can reuse it or to clear it or to reset it, right? So in that case, we don't also that time interval function we don't need to show in the UI, right? But we need that in somewhere so that we can use it for our behind the scene logic. So in this case, we'll be using a reference, means use ref. So let's create one use ref here, which will be, let's give it a interval ref. Okay, I'll name it interval, and here it will give use ref, and initial value will be null because we want to store a function in this ref. Okay, now in start timer, let's create a set interval. Okay, so set interval which will run on every 1 second. So arrow function here, callback, and let's give it 1000 millisecond, means in every 1 second. And in this, what we want to do, we want to update the time value. Okay, so time, set time, whatever the previous value we have. Okay, so previous, let me give it previous value. So means previous time basically. So previous plus 1. So 0 plus 1, 1, 1 plus 1, 2. So like that it will increase definitely. Now we want this interval to be stored somewhere so that we can clear it, this interval, when we are clicking this stop button, right? So that's in that case we have to use this interval into our this use ref. So let's store it. So how we can set value? We just saw ref name dot current, right? So ref name dot current will be our set interval function, because we saw that we can store anything in our reference, right? So that's why we are storing now a interval. Okay, so before this, before storing a new interval in click timer, I need to also check if there is already a interval in our ref, right? Then in that case, I don't want to store anything or replace, right? So let's add a check here. If interval ref dot current will have something, then let's return this function. I don't want to execute it. Means initially it will have null, right? So this will become false. So now it will come here and it will have the interval stored in ref. Okay. But if user clicks again, then in that case, I don't want to reset, right? So in that case, it will have obviously interval.current have the function. So this will become true and the control will want to go inside here. So it won't reset. So that's why we have to add this check. Okay, understood? So this is our start timer. Now let's create a functionality to stop it also. So here on click, let's call, I'll create a function named stop timer. And now let's create a stop timer here. So const stop timer. Okay, it also be a function. And here we want to clear this interval. And so let's clear interval function call. Okay, and where we have stored our interval in this ref dot current, right? So let's pass that here. So now this function will be passed in this clear interval and it will get cleared if user click on stop timer. Also, after clearing, we need to empty this ref so that we can assign it again when if user clicks on start timer. So let's make it null again. So basically it is the reset. So interval ref dot current is equal to null, right? Now this is to stop our timer. And what if I want to reset? So let's create a function also here to reset our timer. So reset timer function name I have given. Let's create it here. Const reset timer. So if I need to reset, right, I need to make this set time to its default value means 0, right? So let's make it set time 0. Set time 0. That is one condition. And also I need to stop this interval logic, right? And already we have created a function to stop the timer. So we also have to stop it on the reset. So let's call that function as well. So in reset, what we are doing, we are stopping the timer and also we are resetting the time value to 0. So that these are three functions which will be calling in these three button clicks. Now, if this app components get unmounted, means it gets removed from our DOM, right? In that case also, we don't want to continue calling this function internally. So here we also want to stop the logic which is running. Okay, so we have to clean up. So how we can clean up? We can in use effect, we have to create, right? In use effect, we have to return it. Means in return, we can write cleanup function. We have saw in last episode. Okay, if you have missed it, just go watch that first and come back here. Okay, so we have to return a cleanup function here. And in cleanup function, what we want to do, we want to stop the timer. So let's call that function again. Okay, so that is the whole functionality. So now let's go on localhost and test it. Come here, refresh it. Let me close this console and let's click on start. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's working. Now let's stop it. It has stopped. Now let's reset it. It becomes 0. Now let's start it again. It is starting again. And let's stop it and reset it. Start it again. And now let's reset directly instead of stopping. So it will also making it 0. So it is working perfectly fine, whatever we wanted, right? So that is the real use case of a use ref you will be using in future, definitely. Let me tell you some more use cases of use ref, okay, apart from this. So as I already told one, which is auto focus on input on mount. So whenever, suppose you have a requirement, whenever any form is coming into the DOM, means it is showing to the user, you want to automatically focus an input. So in that case, you have to use use ref. The second case is if there is something a requirement that in a component you want a certain section to be scrolled whenever you are clicking on something. Okay, so suppose you click a button, and on that button click you want to scroll your page to a certain section, then in that case you can use useref. And one more example is to save a WebSocket, basically a video player instance. So if your video is playing on UI and then you want to store that instance, then in that case you can use useref. And another example is to store a flag which you don't want to show in the UI, but you want it the logic behind your scene. So in that case also you can use useref. And also one very important example is to store the debounce timers. So whenever you will be implementing debouncing, you have to use the useref. Okay, so also debouncing video is already in my YouTube channel. You can go and watch that if you want. Over there I have already used useref. Okay, so these are some more example I have given you for your reference, so that you can in future you can use useref on those cases. Recap time. What we have learned today. So first we saw a problem which was causing when we were not using useref. Then we have learned what is useref and what are the syntax of it. Then we solved that problem using useref. Then we saw the difference between useState and useref. Then after that we saw some tips and tricks which not every YouTuber shows. And then at last we have created a mini project of stopwatch and also given some real life use cases for useref. Coming up next, in next episode we are going to learn use memo hook. We'll cover why use memo will save your slow apps, how it's different from use effect. Also we'll discuss common mistakes beginners makes when using use memo. And at last we'll create a mini project by using use memo hook. Enjoyed this episode? Don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe to NetSprite because React is fun.